Makeup with
Stephanie.
And Roy picking out a black bag.
Out of the,
Okay.
you're torturing me with the black bag.
I am. Well, you know what? One time you were okay with it. The next time you weren't. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, National Days really quick. It is National Black Cat Appreciation Day, and tomorrow is National, I'm going to go with National Fajita Day, because who doesn't love some fajitas, right?
Well, anything food is...
You picked ballerina shoes. I don't remember. Oh, by L'Oreal. This one's cool. It's all right. It goes good with my outfit. Anyways, so I'm going to do a kind of a new thing on Mondays, which I didn't run by you before, but now I'm just going to tell you what we're doing. So it's going to be Mind-Blowing Monday, where we're going to show some photos. So if you guys out there have any mind-blowing photos that you want shown on our show, that maybe you go out and you take photos, this one, I'm going to let you tell us where we're at on this one. Do you remember where we were? Dun, dun, dun.
We're at the racetrack. Yeah, we're at the Speedway track at Paris.
Yep. I thought it was really cool. My son's blocking out the sun, but in the background you have the American flag, and it looks like he's kind of saluting it a little bit. I thought it was really American.
Yes,
it's really
that
cool.
was a nice yes. Mm-hmm. That was last.
That was last month, wasn't it?
Yes.
Anyways, I thought it was really cool. I love taking photos, especially of my babies. What mother doesn't? But if you have a mind-blowing photo, make sure you send it in, and we'll share it on Mondays.
Hang on to that. I wanted to see is that a Dan Gurney's old car? Yeah, that's one of Dan Gurney's cars.
Anyways,
that he ran at Riverside.
That was Makeup with Stephanie.
Pretty sure.
Why he's talking about something completely different.
No, I just found a piece of Moreno Valley history rolling across there.
Thanks for tuning in. I don't know what we're doing now.
What else is new?
Send in your photos. I want to share them. I thought that was kind of cool. Good idea, right? Oh, that's
Love
what I'm
it.
forgetting. My glasses.
The Funky Slide Guitar Music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on IE Newswire and YouTube, both,
and Facebook. And make sure you go and hit that like and subscribe button on our YouTube channel, so that way you get prompted every time we go live. And you got to go check it out, because I did do a cool little announcement that I'm kind of excited about, and I want a lot of people to participate in.
You made an announcement?
I'm so glad you were sitting right next to me listening. And glad I didn't run it by you before we did the show.
Yes, it is.
Now you have no idea what's going on.
There it is. I want to put punch number 4 up there. Just came across the news feed. You're seeing the number 121. I think it's a 65 or 6 Mercury. From the Woods Brothers, the famous racing team, and Dan Gurney drove that car and ones like it to about 5 or 6 victories at the NASCAR races in the 60s in this very town of Moreno Valley, California, at Riverside International Raceway. So I just thought that was kind of cool. A very good piece of history from the IE, which Dan Gurney grew up mostly in Riverside of that. And the Woods Brothers are still racing today with Matt DiDubetto drives their car in the Woods Brothers today. So I think they were like the original when NASCAR started. They were the original, some of the original pioneers. Racing teams. Glenn Wood started. He owned a Mercury dealer back there. He drove in the initial, but they had some very famous Cale and Leroy Yarborough. David Pearson dominated in their car in the 70s. Dan Gurney, and only drove it at the road course races mainly in the 60s out of Riverside, but was basically dominant in that car in the 60s on that. So I just thought that was a real cool, because I got to watch Dan win in that car when I was a little kid. So that was kind of a neat little deal that pops up. One of the few good redeeming qualities of social media, I might add.
I agree with you completely. I think social media is great if it's used correctly.
I
mean, if you don't take advantage of it, you don't let the little stupid stuff get to you. It's a great thing. It really is.
Here's a little report. Obviously, the weekend was full of news. Nothing more than this. I don't know if it's the highest temperature in a while. It hit 130 degrees and Death Valley yesterday. Here's the report.
A thermostat in Death Valley measured 130 degrees. Much of the West Coast deals with a heat wave. Power officials in California considering rolling blackouts for hundreds of thousands of people just to conserve power. And Bill Ray, here's the thing for us today, those dew points are down. It feels wonderful when you step outside right now.
Yeah.
A thermostat.
Yeah, wonderful when you step out on that in Death Valley on that. But I put that out because they mentioned the grid, and we're going to get to that in a minute, because Governor Hairgel was on there today, had his press conference, and he had something to say about the grid on that, going back and forth. But as you roll through the stuff, it's just absolutely incredulous of doing that. Another sad note that came out today, best racing announcer in the world passed away yesterday. Bruce Flanders. I mean, he was Speedway, I mean, IMS out here, the Grand, everywhere, Riverside Raceway, Irwindale, Paris, Ascot, was the voice of the Long Beach Grand Prix, and spent most of his career as a radio announcer. There was nobody that called a race, I don't care, hands down in my book, whoever called, ever or will probably call a race better than Bruce Flanders. I mean, that guy could get away with saying stuff you would not believe. I mean, we're going to have to find some clips of Bruce on that, because, I mean, I know you never got the privilege of hearing Bruce at the races.
No, I didn't.
But man, and just a hell of a guy.
Speaking of, really quick, great guys, I just saw that my brother logged on. Happy birthday, brother! I love you. Tell Terry happy birthday.
Terry
or Carrie.
Carrie, yeah, no, Carrie, and that's Carri. What's the movie named after you? Carrie? No, we're just kidding with you.
Happy birthday!
Have a great day, Carrie, Terry, or whatever your name is on that. There's a neat story behind that one. Of what's going on. Where did my oh, there it is. We've had Alyssa Smith on
my best friend.
Yes, and all this week, starting on Monday to Saturday, they had what's called California Modified Sprint Week. Raced at all tracks, Petaluma, Merced, Hanford, Placerville, Bakersfield, which was where the last race was Saturday night on that. Alyssa Smith, her dad Tom, who just recently they both got new modifieds this year. Austin Grabowski did that. Blake Thornell, which we've had on the show, was there up there Saturday night. But this is the start of the main event at Bakersfield, and Alyssa was on the outside pole. I think this was the first main event she made. Tom made most of them. Austin had a hell of a time. He was just... everything that could go wrong with Austin went wrong on that. Here's just a little shot of the video of the start of the main event at Bakersfield on that. I thought this was pretty good, so let it roll.
Shane DeVolder's going to lead him down to the bottom side of turns 1 and 2. They're going to bring Gary Dutton with him. Here comes the 31A of Alyssa Smith up on the outside. Side by side of turns 3 and 4. They got him rack and stack. Side by side coming to the stripe. Shane DeVolder's going to lead lap number 1. Alyssa Smith, number 2 spot, Gary Dutton, Tom Smith, Trevor Fitz, Gavin Manning, Clinton Reckenbach rounds out your top 6. They're side by side for the lead now, going to turns 1 and 2. Alyssa Smith up on the high side. She's going to get it done, coming to the stripe this time by giving the lead to the 31A of Alyssa Smith. Alyssa Smith's out front. Shane DeVolder to the number 2 spot. Gary Dutton in the number 3. Then you pick up the 31T of Tom Smith. So Alyssa Smith, the daughter of Tom Smith, out front. Tom Smith sitting right there in the number 4 spot. He's going to try to duck underneath Gary Dutton. They're side by side.
So there you go. She she led a few laps of the main event on that. I think eventually finished 7th. It was kind of a crash fest. Her dad Tom got in one of the crashes, but he came back and finished till like 5th or so, I think, on that. But that was pretty cool to see her driver in there pretty deep there on the second lap and take the lead for a few laps on that.
Good job, best friend.
But it was great. I mean, I think they had, going all through the weekend, this kind of this goes back to the really old days in California. But they had 50-plus modifieds at every race And I mean Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, through the whole thing. Probably a little pent-up demand because nobody's been Oh, Justin Dunn from down here was up there running too. He made a few of the main events too. Forgot about Justin Get Her Done from that. But I thought that was kind of cool. The whole thing was going on, but I just wanted to show you that she just got the just started driving that car this year, driving up from the street stock division, started driving the modified, and it looks like she's catching on to that pretty good.
David writes in, where can I go locally and see a short track champ kart race, Roy?
Champ kart. That's a good one. It's
David, you asked the question that Roy doesn't
well, it's
know
few
the
and
answer
far
to.
in between. I mean,
I'm so proud.
Well, they've shut most everything down. I don't know of anybody. I haven't heard of any of the kart tracks running. I'm not saying that they aren't. I just haven't heard of any of them running. But if we do find out about that, we will let you know.
Definitely.
On that.
Thank you for asking, David.
Of that, and just on, and we'll probably get into this a little bit deeper later in the week.
We won't.
But have you ever, just for an example, let's say we were standing, or as you're standing outside with somebody and you look up and you say, what color shade of blue do you think the sky is right now? And they come back and they start telling you what a despicable person you are and yada, 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 and meander on about that for a while, and you just kind of stand there and look stupid. And okay, how about the original question was, what shade of blue do you think the sky is? And then you get this whole dissertation like that again. Now I want to submit to you, is that a rational person that when you ask them a question and they do...
Laughing at David's comment, by the way. Not you.
they do roll all over the place and don't answer the question you ask. They go on to commentary about whatever. Okay. Fine. Why don't you answer the original question? And some events transpired over late last week in that. And again, if people deal with, especially with me, if you deal with me with respect, professionally, tell me what you're doing, fine. I may not agree with it, of that. But if you're going to backdoor, if you're going to run your jaw or tap on the computer, or you're just going to do things that were agreed to or that in the first place, or just plain, like I said, treat people with some common decency, then I think those matters should be brought out into light. And you're gonna see, because we're gonna go back a little bit in the history of the show, and you're gonna see a lot of why, and we're gonna get back into the electric grid here in a minute. You're gonna see why I bring these things up all across the board. Because you're gonna see, over a year and a half ago, I predicted if the same things keep happening, things are going to blow like a powder keg.
Like a what?
Like a powder keg.
What is that?
It's like where you keep the stuff that makes dynamite go boom.
Oh, okay. I thought we meant fruitcake. Anyways, carry on.
But it's important why you do this. And it's important why you see how and why and how people are that are in the public realm.
Not me.
So we'll be getting into this a little bit more as the week goes on, and we will discuss it. But you may be surprised of how, what, or why, because again, it goes to why, the reason why I bring these subjects up, why we talk about them on the radio show, why we do them on the blogs, and why I say when people, well, why do you do this and da 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 da? Because you know what? Like I said, after the fact is too late. When things all turn to blank, you can't wind the clock back and say, oh, we're going to redo this.
Matt's, and I'm not even going to read your comment, Matt.
Yes, read Matt's comment.
He put, who did Roy piss off?
Oh, well, that.
We're not going to get into it today. But who doesn't Roy piss off? I mean, come on now.
I don't piss off anybody. I do exactly what
See, but the thing that you do is you don't personally piss people off, but you make people get pissed off at themselves, and then they got to blame you. I mean, you do it to me all the time,
ding,
but
ding,
it's all right.
ding,
I'll
ding,
admit
ding,
it.
ding.
I'm not
People
that prideful.
People don't get that. You've even seen you've seen the latest threat. I didn't. This is what you got.
I don't pay attention to petty crap like that.
And people go off on all these tangents and things of that. And again, you hit it. I mean, that was 100% analysis of what I do. Like, right? I put the question in front of you out there on that, and I will tell you this: you probably talk to most anybody that knows me. I will, if I say I'm going to do something, you can almost bet the farm, your bottom dollar, everything in the world that I'm going to do it. If I say I'm going to do it. And you might not like it. I might be the dumbest thing in the world I've ever done. But if I say I'm going to do something, it's going to get done. And I don't care who's standing, what wall I got to knock down, go around or something. But I always like I say, you want to know, ask, or I will tell you. If you have any question about it, I will explain it to you. But in the point of fact, once the decision is made, that's what's going to be done. On to other things, because I want to talk about this. We'll have Kelly Victory on here at the bottom, after the bottom of the hour.
I love Kelly.
There's that. But I want to get to hair gel, because we're all going through. You hear the
Can we just call him Cutie already?
Oh, Gavin Newsom. He's so cute.
I hate that voice. Stop. That voice sticks in my head all night.
God,
Scary.
I would love to blank him.
Where's my... Who took my beating stick? That's all I got. That's all I got, people. Took my stick. I see a piece of wood over there, though, but I'm not going to... Hey, there's some people you piss off that will love
go
to see that.
into are absolutely hilarious.
The what?
The segues
I know.
you roll into are absolutely hilarious.
Anyways, back to Cutie. I just love it because it makes me mad. I don't really think he's cute. I would never be able to listen to him talk. Never be able to sit at a dinner table with him.
We all know, and we started off with 130-degree heat.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. We love you too.
And we've heard.
Well, I do. I don't know about Roy.
We heard about all the stuff going on in the heat and 130 degrees, and all this week is supposed to be. They're saying we might have to shut off the power grid. We because of this. How many times? What more of you are you all gonna take? First.
Well, really quick, I want to read Matt's comment because he's a little upset. He went into Home Depot today for a garden hose, and he said there's none. No spray paint either.
Again, yes. The supply chain, I'm getting this from suppliers all the time. The supply chain is starting to break down, and this is why. Matt, hang on. Let me go through the stats. We'll get to the stuff because I'm going to get to the thing. But he said, here's what the big thing is. He says, I didn't even know this was going in. I didn't know the grid was falling apart. I didn't know we couldn't handle this. This is Hair Gel at the press conference today saying that. Here we go. We hope. Why isn't
I
he
beat you
put-
to it.
Take responsibility, have taken, I assure you, responsibility to immediately address this issue and move forward to make sure this simply never happens again here in the state of California. Began that process again shortly after I left you on Friday, worked throughout the weekend with our Energy Commission, with Cal ISO, our independent system operator, and the California Public Utilities Commission. We've been working with businesses large and small, and we are working with experts across the spectrum to address the immediacy of this crisis, to understand the conditions that led up to it, and ultimately to address the anxiety that each and every one of you are facing, and to make sure that we never come back into this position again. So right now, California, we are currently and urgently deploying resources across the spectrum.
So here, no, leave that up there. Pull it back on forward.
Oh, okay.
He says failure to predict and plan for these shortages is unacceptable. He admits later on, or he says, he didn't know anything about this. You gotta be flippin' kidding. This has been going on. The independent ISO, the independent grid operators, mainly SoCal Ed, PG&E, and Southern California Gas and Electric, have been warning about this for years. They said it when the last one was when they closed down San Onofre nuclear plant. Said, you know, we have no power to put in here.
Matt said the same thing.
It is, yes. I know, Matt's on it. This
Demo at the Peaker plant in Romoland? What was that?
Yes, and then the goofball gets on there later on and says we want to close down the gas-fired plants, which probably provides about 50% of our power and more of it when these emergency systems, when the solar goes down and all that other stuff. No, it's going to kill us. You know why? Because they're teed off because Trump opened up the fracking. Now we got more natural gas than we know what to do with, and it's cheap electricity now to make it from gas-fired generators. And these guys are having a absolute heart attack because it is really crushing their solar, renewable, green, wet dream that has got us into this mess. The AB 32, the taxes, the eco-freak stuff, the electricity grid selling and made Edison and PG&E sell all the plants in 2003. And for all you that are on the Republican bandwagon, that was a deal with George W. Bush and Gray Davis, and we recall Gray Davis over that. Remember Enron and Kenny Lay coming out of Bush in Texas and all that? So it's a dual-sided problem that's been going on. We have systematically done this. We have systematically killed ourselves. And this is what Melissa Melendez, senator from down Temecula area all the way out to the Colorado River. Number 4, please. California's residential electric power rates are 55% higher than the average of other states. That's with all the solar and other Yahoo stuff. California's commercial power rates are 69.7% higher than those in other states. California's industrial rates are 115% higher. She further writes, alternate energy technologies aren't the golden ticket. They are intermittent and unpredictable since they depend on the weather. Also, large-scale needed storage is simply not a viable option. Supply and demand have to be equal on the electrical grid when you do that in energy on. And Melissa Melendez also added in on that hair gel, they said last year at the legislature, and he got the updates. Again, for the 87 millionth time, they said a crisis is coming, you better start fixing it. And this clown, hair gel, is saying, on top of that, oh, I didn't know nothing about this. They gave me a message when I was on here Friday.
Stop with that voice.
I mean, for crying the hell out loud. What more do you have to endure on this stuff? Now that they got you locked down, they got your businesses closed. You can't even get a frickin' haircut. They got your schools closed. Well, they ain't, not one What school employee? I want to know the school employee, public employee that's lost one red nickel out of this thing.
Yeah, I would like to start getting paid.
Nothing.
No,
and they're up there.
Let me tell you, my day is like, I almost seriously, and I'm not trying to be like dramatic or anything, but I was like this close, one click away from a freaking breakdown today. It's insane. Teachers are doing great getting lessons out there, but the kids can't keep up with this technology. They just can't do it. Kids shouldn't be learning how to do PowerPoints and all that in 3rd grade, 4th grade. It's insane.
On top of that, how much more of this are you going to take it from this example? Now we're going to shut the freaking power off. You know, what are you going to do? And it's
But what about for those that have solar?
What are you
But you know
going
what?
to
No,
do?
my power did go out the other day. My solar didn't kick on. Why?
Because it's all about, I've been telling you it's a bunch of BS.
Calm down before you hurt yourself.
I will not. Because I deal with this crap all the time, and you just seen the latest of it, and it's some stupid policies that have brought on all this stuff. They've been working on it. They've used the George Floyd, the COVID, and everything else on that. And we are going to point out all the yo-hos that have been doing that. So those of you that are supporting that or anything, when this stuff all happens, you are going to be the ones that are going to be held accountable for this. Because you cannot say you didn't know. Because if you say you didn't know, you're lying through your freaking teeth like hair gel.
Well, sometimes I don't know, so you can't yell at me about that.
You know now.
I'm learning. But why is... I'm not even going to ask them mine. You're scary today. I'll ask my blonde questions another day. Anyways.
On that. But no, it's absolutely crazy of what we're doing to ourselves, because.
But I really do want to go back to when we lost power. Why didn't my solar kick on? Why is that being paid for then? Is that a scam?
Yes.
Does that make
Look
you
at
mad?
how high your electricity rates. You are paying whatever rebates you got back or whatever you're doing, you're paying more, because you know what? That 70% higher electricity rates in commercial, that 115%
people
in
that have solar
manufacturing
aren't
goods.
getting that
You know
rate
what?
higher.
You pay that.
Not
because
if I have solar.
that is reflected in all the goods and services you buy, and you're paying the highest
Well, I see where you're
electricity
going.
rates by
I
far
see where you're going with it.
in the nation. So it was a false sell. It's like going to the used car lot, and the guy says,
Oh, Matt's answering my question. Never mind.
it's here.
Thanks, Matt.
Yo, here's this nice new car of that, and da-da-da-da-da, and you do that, you flip the paint is still wet, and you flip it back, and you see the yellow cab, the yellow like it's a taxi. The thing's got 87 million miles, and he's telling you it's a cream puff, that the little old lady across the street only drove it to church on Sunday. That's what you got sold.
A cream puff?
Yes, you
That's
got
all I
sold a
heard
bill
there.
of goods on that whole thing, and now you're paying the price.
Stop yelling
And you're
at me.
going to pay the price, and everybody's going to pay the price of it like this. How long are you going to let that
But
goofball stay in the
every
office?
builder is now putting solar on houses.
Because
on their
it's
bill.
mandated by stupid with AB 32. Our legislature passed it. The 2/3 majority that's now in the Democrat legislature that you, the people of California, voted for, passed it, and now it's mandated that you have to put this crap on the houses, rising the price of housing, rising the price of power, taking wealth away from you and your kids in future.
Okay. Challenge. You want to accept the challenge? Say something positive about solar. One thing positive.
The day we get rid of that stuff,
That's not positive.
yes,
No,
will
it's
be the
not.
day. No, will be the day electricity rates, and we build nuclear plants. Will be the day electricity
1
gets
minute.
so cheap you will be turning the air conditioner
Hey,
on
Sean.
when it's 32 degrees.
Hi,
Because electricity
Stephanie.
will be so cheap.
I didn't hear anything positive there about solar.
Finish her.
But you know what? Back in the day, they had like the water tanks that did the energy. We used to have one back on our roof. Oh my gosh, it was so long ago. My mom knows what
How
I'm
did
talking
you do
about.
that?
Huh?
We heard Sean Did Sean put that sinister through the?
30 seconds.
I was going to say. I thought that I was thinking. How did Sean
sinister?
fix that? Yes.
You know the water things that did the energy? You know what I'm talking about? You're so grumpy today.
The water things.
Yeah.
Here we go. 10 seconds.
Huge water.
UT1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
Geothermal.
Newswire Daily is there. The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET. It's or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music. Comes on every Monday through Friday at 5:30 p.m. on the Mighty Met
1490.
KMET, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire, joining our audience who's been on IE Newswire on both Facebook and YouTube. On that, on a
Madness Monday.
Madness Monday. I thought you had something else for that when you started.
That was on the YouTube. They got to go to the YouTube channel.
Oh yeah,
and see
go
what
to
I
the
titled
YouTube.
then.
I didn't know if you were making
And my-
that a secret. That's why I kind of
It
hesitated.
is a secret. They
on
got to go to YouTube and
Go
find
to
out.
YouTube on that.
I really want some people sending stuff in. I'm excited.
Of that on the deal. No, we covered the whole power grid deal on that and how now this is the next thing. Your schools are closed. Your businesses are closed. Restaurants are closed. Everything is
But
closed.
you know what? A lot of restaurants are doing outside dining, which to me, that's great that these restaurants are coming back and doing that, but it defeats the entire purpose, which I like because businesses are standing against kind of what he's saying. But if you can be outside, why can't you be inside?
And now
I don't get it. And why can't we do racing and outside events if you still, and football events or baseball, basketball, if you seat them all apart?
it was whole thing and
Makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. The whole thing on the deal is and it went in. They redid the stats of that. You know, at the first of the month when they said, when they had the second shutdown, they said, COVID cases are going way down, and they said, and then they came out last week and said, well, the stats are good or bad. Well, they were holding cases back or not counting them to make it look like it was. No, the curve was going like it always was. There was no difference in that. But in order to make you believe that locking down the stuff the second time was doing that or was helpful, they're saying, well, we didn't count the stats right, or the state didn't, or yada yada yada. I'm saying bull hooky on the whole thing. They planned this. They got caught. And now they're paying the price for this because, as our next guest will probably tell you, coronavirus is going to do its thing. There's probably, at this point, there's probably not a lot we're going to do about it. But we're going to bring on the aforementioned Dr. Kelly Victory, which we've had on many times, world-renowned physician and expert on just about everything under the sun. Welcome to IE Newswire Daily with Stephanie and Roy, Dr. Kelly Victory. I think. Yes, are you there? Hello. Are you there now?
I'm here.
There we go. We
Yes,
finally got
yes.
the right button pushed on that.
We found you.
Yes, we finally found you. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, Roy, I'm so tired of this because you are exactly right. As I've been saying from the beginning, from frankly the middle of February when the hullabaloo began about this whole thing, as I said, this is going to be like every other virus. It's going to go, it's going to spread. It's going to make its way through the masses, and we just need to stay the course as we have with every other pandemic. For reasons that are not entirely clear, the response to this one was absolutely unprecedented. It was an out-and-out panic fest, and the types of responses, including the lockdowns of businesses, closing of schools, social distancing, wearing of masks, all of the things that have been foisted upon us, we know have been for naught. And it's really tragic because these weren't things that were simply inconveniences. It's not just an inconvenience to have your small business shut down, or an inconvenience to have to make your bar or restaurant only have 30% of capacity. It's not just an inconvenience to have your kids home from school. These things are devastating. They have destroyed the livelihoods and then the lives of millions and millions and millions of Americans. And all we have to do is look across the pond at places like Sweden, who did none of this. And they were derided for it. I mean, believe me. I mean, people kept saying, oh, my gosh, just wait, with a hint of glee in their voice. Just wait. Sweden's going to get knocked upside the head, and they're going to get decimated by this. Well, they didn't, because they did exactly the right thing. They went about their business. They didn't lock things down. They didn't have mask mandates and school closures. And lo and behold, COVID is essentially over in Sweden. They are having somewhere between 0 and 5 deaths per day, closer to 0 now. They have had no overrun on their hospitals. They've had no undue mortality, and they're over it. They're done. We're here in the United States. We are realizing that all of the things that destroyed the lives of tens of millions of Americans were all for naught, because we're still smack in the middle of this.
There you go.
That's horrible.
This came out in the New York Times. Scientists see signs of lasting immunity to COVID-19 even in mild infections. New research indicates that the human immune system cells are storing information about coronavirus so they can fight it off again. As it writes by Catherine Wu, the immune system, not all germs are equally memorable, but our body cells seem to be seriously studying up on the coronavirus. Scientists who have been monitoring immune responses to the virus are now starting to see encouraging signs of strong lasting immunity, even in people who developed only mild symptoms of COVID-19. A flurry of new studies suggest disease-fighting antibodies, as well as immune T cells called B cells and T cells that are capable of recognizing the virus, appear to persist for months after infections have resolved, are encouraging the echo of bodies' enduring response to other viruses. And it goes on to quote all the studies now that are coming back out that says, you know what, it looks like we are developing herd immunity. What do you got to say to this new development, Dr. Kelly Victory?
There's no question. And there's a reason, Roy, that we haven't succumbed to every new virus, bacteria, parasite, whatever else threat that comes along over the past, 10 million years. Why would we all of a sudden think that, in 2020, all of a sudden, with all of our technology, all of our advances in healthcare, all of our abilities to fight off and to treat viruses, that all of a sudden we're going to be hit with the big bad one? It was simply silly, and it's really an embarrassment to think it. Now, I am never said that COVID-19 is not a real thing. I'm not saying it's a hoax. I'm not saying that it wasn't a bad virus. The good news is we've known from the absolute beginning who the people are who are at significant risk. Those people in those older decades, 70 and above, people with significant underlying health conditions. We knew who those people were right from the beginning. So we very easily could have rallied around, protected those people, isolated them out of an abundance of caution. But the idea that you would take young, healthy people who have the ability to mount an adequate immune response, many people we know now haven't even gone on to develop antibodies because they haven't needed to. The very first, line of defense in the immune system is the development of T cells, and those people, who just had to mount a T cell response have fought off the virus without even needing to go on and form antibodies. People who go on and then do form the antibodies are likely going to be protected for some period of time and maybe forever, because one of the things we know is that these viruses, although they mutate, they tend to look relatively similar. So although you might not have the perfect antibody for it, you've got something similar. It's kind of like that jigsaw puzzle piece where you say, this doesn't quite fit here, but it looks like it should. It's kind of the same shape. It's the same thing with antibodies. Might not be a perfect fit, but it would definitely give you some limited immunity. So if we had just let things play out the way we should have from the beginning, we would likely be over this by now. But instead, we keep, jockeying and weaving and responding to an uptick in cases here, a spike over there. Oh my gosh, we had X number of new quote-unquote cases, largely which were, totally asymptomatic, so I don't know why they even matter. But we keep reporting on them and mounting the same sort of overreaction that we've been doing since the beginning of February.
You know what? Stephen writes in, I want to read his comment. He's always great with the comments when you're on. He wrote, does any shutdown or restriction make a difference since the virus is spreading like wildfire? Is it a case of survival of the fittest?
Well, it's a great question. It's not survival of the fittest per se. We know who the folks are who are at risk. And what Stephen's right about, however, is that lockdowns do not make any sense. You cannot stem the spread of a respiratory virus in these ways. Let's start with the fact that masks simply do not work to stop the spread of respiratory viruses. And I'm sorry to break it to people. It's tough when the science, when the data, contradicts what you'd like to believe is true. But I hate to tell you, masks don't work. And you can look, there are now more than 50 studies that prove it. You can go to the CDC's own website and read the meta-analysis of studies there on the usefulness of masks for respiratory viruses, and they don't work. So if masks don't work, any shutdown isn't going to work either, because you cannot keep from the air from moving. Respiratory viruses are going to move around. The great news is you can isolate that small group of people who actually is at significant risk, keep them really protected, be super tight in your lockdown there, and keep those people from being unduly at risk. The idea that we have done what we've done to the economy, to people's lives, to school children, to people's small businesses, all of these things is tragic. It was unnecessary. I might argue it was unconstitutional. And truly, it's an embarrassment of public health.
Kind of, and we talked about it earlier, to kind of expand on this, and and I see the next step of this. We've got our schools locked down. People throw, businesses closed. You can't do this. You can't go to a restaurant. You're going to kill your mom if you visit her. All that. Now, Governor Hair Gel is coming out with the deal of, oh, you know what? Well, yeah, we're shutting down your electricity now for that. And I didn't even know about that we had a problem with the electric grid. But yeah, I mean, am I wrong? But is this the next step now that they've got the majority of the people convinced that we're all going to die of COVID-19 if we don't walk around and lock ourselves in a hermetically sealed bubble? That, now we'll just start dialing back your electricity, when it's 130 degrees or whatever in Death Valley, and then you'll be begging us, for whatever crumbs we'll be throwing at you. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you right now, they are not in a position, given the heat that's going on right now in Southern California, they are not in a position to even have these rolling brownouts that they're talking about. It's one thing to say, we're going to shut down, or we want people to limit their use of air conditioning in their homes during these hours of the day, if people have the ability to go to other outlets, for example, to the movie theater, to the shopping mall, to the bowling alley, to get out and about and say, I'm getting out of my house during these hours because I'm supposed to dial back my air conditioning. But if you combine a brownout and tell people they can't use their home air conditioning, at the same time, as you've said, oh, and by the way, we've closed the bowling alleys and the casinos and the movie theaters and the shopping malls. Oh, and on top of it, please place this, piece of diaper over your face so that you can't breathe. Now, I mean, at some point, we are now going to start seeing older people and people with underlying respiratory conditions drop like flies, not from COVID, but from heat prostration. I mean, this is serious stuff. We see people really succumb to heat-related illnesses not infrequently during these heat waves. So California better get their act together and figure out what they're going to do and stop threatening these rolling, brownouts on the air conditioning at a time when you've already got people so locked down and so limited that they're at serious risk. Again, not from COVID, but from everything else that we are doing to them.
That has been my point on this whole thing. I mean, you can see each step. I mean, they just keep raising the bar on us. It isn't that we ever, here we are. We're almost going into 6 months of this whole COVID thing when it started in
Feels
March.
like it's been forever.
Yeah, and we're not seeing any reversal in this at all. We're just seeing it keep adding on, up and down of going on. So I say this is the next step. Well, what are they going to do? What are you going to do now? How is that distance learning that y'all parents are doing on that when they shut off the power on that? And you know what? You can no longer connect. Even at the highest electricity prices by far in the nation, you cannot connect to the internet. What happens then?
Right. You're exactly right. And what's really tragic on top of all of this, and I have not really been wildly outspoken on the air, on your show or others, with regard to treatment for COVID, but it's about time to say now, we could have stopped all of this craziness if we would simply embrace the fact that we have perfectly reasonable treatments for COVID. For those people who truly need it. And we have hydroxychloroquine, which is dirt cheap and is remarkably effective. And it is just a tragedy that it has been so politicized in this country. We are one of the only countries that hasn't used it. We've seen way higher mortality rates than we needed to as a result of that. And it's dirt cheap. We don't need to wait for a vaccine. We don't need remdesivir at $3,000 per patient needs to be given IV when somebody's in the hospital, when you can give somebody $12 worth of hydroxychloroquine tablets to take for 5 days at home before they ever need to go in the hospital and actually wipe this out. So instead of shutting down the economy, keeping school kids at home, and decimating the livelihoods and the careers and the futures of tens of millions of Americans, maybe we ought to start looking at actually what's right under our nose, a time-tested drug that's been FDA approved for 6.5 decades.
It kind of runs on that. I mean, in the 70s when we built Diablo and San Onofre and nuclear power and all that, and California had the cheapest, on top of the other infrastructure we put in, we had the cheapest electricity in the nation, and now we have by far up to, our industrial rates are 115% now over the average. Residential 55% and commercial 70% of that. And it's just the other, I mean, how do you survive? How does a nation survive in that, or a state as in California? Ultimately, how do you survive when you just keep ratcheting this stuff up? It keeps getting higher under the bar. And I say this: if you get a 5% raise on your paycheck, but you get a 10% hike in the expenses it costs you to live, you went in the whole 5%, even though you have more technically money in your pocket.
No, you better believe it. And the issue is, what's going to happen to states like California when you've got some of the worst lockdowns on top of these escalating utility costs, the fact that they can't meet need, those sorts of things. Then you combine that with cities across the country that have had these unbelievable violence, rioting, all this. you take, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, New York, we're going to start seeing a collapsing of the country into, people are starting to flee. People are fleeing those, the cities with the abject violence. People are going to start to flee places like California more than they did even before because of things like utility costs and the fact that they can't meet need. It's going to be a very, very interesting thing to see over the next, and I say interesting, meaning the word I'd like to use is, tragic, horrifying thing to see over the next, say, 10 years as people flee to places that are able to meet the need and that are not sort of riddled with violence. And the people who are really going to suffer, Roy, are the people in the inner cities, are the minorities, are the impoverished, because they're the people who can't pick up and move. You can pick up and move. The people who can't are the people who are impoverished in the inner cities are the people who are going to really suffer. They're going to be stuck in places where they can't pay for their utilities, where there is just this crime-ridden hellholes, and where there are no jobs. And that's true racism. That's true tragedy.
I just wish this was broadcast and everybody
everywhere.
This was mandatory that all 330 million people in the United States of America and 7 billion across the world had to just listen to that last 2 or 3 minutes, because that sums it up almost everything that's going on in a
Tamara
nutshell.
writes in that she's a 3-time survivor, and they kept shutting off her power, so they're all miserable in her home, but luckily they have fans, so they're cooling down. Our hearts go out to you. I mean, that is horrible.
Exactly, and that's my thing, is that you say, there are people in the big cities and the people in some of these states who can pick up and move and who have the ability to. But when you think about the people who can't, and the people who are out there talking about, whether it's Black Lives Matter or we care about the little guy, or we're fighting for the people, for the impoverished, for the inner city, for minorities, those are the people who are being crushed by these. They're the ones being absolutely destroyed by these policies. It's and honestly, I wish people would see that they're being destroyed by these policies.
It is, man. It's some. I'll say this: it's some interesting times we're living in.
Yeah.
Thanks for the time, Dr. Kelly Victory. From a lot of things you said today, I think this was one of the best ones we ever did. We got on a lot of points, so I thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you for reading or answering our viewers' comments too. We really appreciate
always.
that.
I love to take calls and I love to talk with folks. So there's nothing I won't talk about.
That's awesome.
We'll do it again.
That's why we love you.
Sounds great. All right, talk soon, you guys. Bye.
Dr. Kelly Victory on there. Yeah, I think
she's great.
I think a lot of what I love. I loved it when she says that, because, I mean, dispute what she said. I mean, those of you who are on the other side, or are going on or come about all the other, or this, or like the solar or that, or oh, Gavin Newsom, he's so cute, crowd of that. Refute this. You've got, okay, you're buying this. Like I said, what happens when they shut off your electricity? And what happens when this whole, if this whole thing goes down?
And Matt had wrote in too, not to totally flip it on you, but we should be talking about the hospital numbers and the mortality rate, not positive cases. Why are we still talking about positive cases?
Kelly's brought it up many times. I have. That's why I don't bring it up, because I don't care if the positivity rate was 133%, and they come up like say 500 million out of the 300 million or 30 million or whatever population in the United States has it. Good. Actually good. The New York Times put it in there with multiple. We'll post the link on that on the New York Times article up there, and all the other ones we did. And
yes,
go look. Multiple studies are coming out now saying, oh yeah, you do get immune from coronavirus. Oh, even if you get a mild case of it. this is what's absolutely crazy about all this stuff. It is no concern. Death rates are going down, hospitalization rates are going down, and we're running around like the world's coming to an end. Like I said, we're coming on to 6 months of this crap. And they're raising the bar each day, each week, each month, whatever, the bar gets higher. We don't backtrack on this stuff. They just keep ratcheting us down. Pray tell, what's
Crazy
the next
about
thing
all
coming?
this stuff.
It is no concern.
you
Death
like me
rates
so
are
much
going
you wanna
down,
put me in
hospitalization
stereo.
rates are going down, and we're running
tell me to
around
put
like the
comments
world's
on.
coming to an end.
Well, yeah,
like
but
I
you
said,
started
Stop
we're
touching
coming
the
on to
mouse.
6 months of this crap. And
Why are you getting rid of?
well, because you were playing, you torched off one of the videos.
Oh,
on
was
there.
it playing? I don't have my earplugs.
Yes.
Oh.
That's the reason why you keep your earplugs in.
Well, if
So
you
you
moved it closer and it wasn't constantly pulling out every time I moved, it would stay in. Imagine that. Wow. Because I haven't been asking for that for a month.
Man,
Anyways.
the segues you get into on this stuff are absolutely.
I'm just saying, it's annoying. It pulls out all the time. See? They're gone. I just give up. What?
You should go back and listen
I
to
don't want to
yourself.
because that's right. People tell me. I don't need to hear it. Anyways, thank you everyone that commented in. Yeah, I quit. We'll get the links in there some way, somehow. Eventually. Don't remember. Don't even forget.
Oh my! Another great show today. Mondays are always. I mean, Mondays are always jam packed. We always got a lot of stuff to
Yeah, we
talk
do.
about on the whole thing. But I think it's a good show. We covered a lot of stuff. What went on in the weekend on that? Congratulations to everybody that survived this whole ordeal, and hopefully we will in the future. Because, as I said, sometimes you
Now you're
just
questioning.
wonder on that coming up.
Well, now you have me freaking out. Don't say that. Thank you to all our viewers. We appreciate you guys.
You got it. We'll be back tomorrow.
Are we? Taco
So
Tuesday.
until then,
We're gone.